Trust your gut. How to make a hard decision. When faced with a hard decision, the truth is your gut already knows the answer. Even before your mind starts overthinking every possible outcome, it's easy to get lost in the noise of doubts, fears, and endless what-ifs, but clarity doesn't come from more thinking. It comes from silence. Take a step back, breathe, and create space to listen to that inner voice, because your intuition speaks loudest when your mind is quiet. Pay attention to how your body reacts to each choice, the tension, the excitement, the subtle pull in one direction. These physical signals are often your intuition communicating with you directly. Don't let the fear of making the wrong decision paralyze you. Instead, focus on the greater fear of regret that comes from ignoring your gut. Every time you trust yourself and take action, even in small steps, you strengthen that inner confidence and prove to yourself that your intuition is reliable. Life doesn't require perfect choices, it requires that you show up, listen to yourself, and move forward with courage, knowing that your inner compass will guide you through the uncertainty. This is how God warns you about these people. Life has a way of putting people in our paths for a reason. But not everyone who crosses your way is meant to stay. Some are sent as blessings, some as lessons, and some as warnings. And God, in His infinite wisdom, often gives us subtle signs before these people can truly affect our lives. These warnings may come in whispers, moments of unease, repeated patterns, or the gut feeling that something isn't right. Often, we ignore them, thinking that love, trust, or hope will change people. But the truth is, God speaks through circumstances, emotions, and even other people to protect us from the harm we might not see yet. The first warning often comes in the form of repeated discomfort. You may find that when you are around certain people, you feel drained, anxious, or uneasy without a clear reason. That unease is not your imagination, it is your spirit recognizing danger before your mind does. God uses these feelings to keep you alert, to tell you that your peace is being threatened, even if everything appears normal on the surface. Another way God warns us is through patterns that repeat themselves. Maybe you notice that every time you trust someone new, they end up hurting you, betraying you, or taking more than they give. Life is full of lessons, and God often allows small, manageable warnings to prepare you for larger challenges. He may show you glimpses of someone's true character in subtle actions, small lies, moments of selfishness, or disregard for boundaries. These moments may seem insignificant at first, but they are like flashing signals, urging you to pay attention before it escalates. God is patient, but His messages are persistent. When a person repeatedly tests your peace or integrity, it is not coincidence. It is a divine warning meant to guide you toward wisdom and self-preservation. God also warns us through the reactions and advice of others. Sometimes, people outside of the situation can see what we cannot. Friends, family, or even strangers may voice concerns not to control us, but to reflect God's warning through their perspective. Pay attention to repeated caution from multiple sources. It is often God using other voices to confirm what your spirit already senses. These warnings are rarely loud. They are subtle nudges, gentle suggestions, or moments that make you pause and rethink your decisions. They may appear as coincidences, disagreements, or even sudden revelations about someone's past, all pointing you to the truth that certain people are not meant to remain in your life. Your own intuition is one of the most powerful ways God communicates these warnings. That gut feeling that you cannot ignore, the sense that something is off, is more than anxiety, it is divine guidance. Often, the mind wants to rationalize, explain, or hope for the best, but your spirit knows the truth. When God warns you about someone, it will feel undeniable in your core. You might find yourself hesitating to trust them fully, feeling uneasy about their words or actions, or experiencing a sense of impending discomfort when you are around them. These are not coincidences. They are God's gentle hand steering you away from people who could derail your peace, purpose, or growth. Sometimes, the warnings come through obstacles that seem inconvenient or frustrating. Maybe doors close when you try to collaborate, opportunities fade when you consider involvement with certain individuals, or circumstances shift to prevent you from being vulnerable. God is often quiet but effective, arranging life in ways that protect you without your conscious understanding. What seems like a setback may actually be a divine intervention to keep toxic influences from taking root in your life. Trusting this process is part of listening to God's warnings. It requires faith, patience, and the courage to step away even when the heart wants to hold on. Finally, God warns you through the natural consequences of their presence. Perhaps a pattern emerges, conflicts increase, your mental or emotional health suffers, or negativity becomes constant when certain people are involved. Life, in its own way, becomes a reflection of God's warning. These consequences are not punishments, they are signals. They are meant to make you aware that holding on to harmful relationships or ignoring your instincts will only bring more harm. God's guidance often works through experience, teaching you to protect yourself, honor your peace, and recognize the signs before damage is done. Recognizing God's warnings is not always easy, but it is essential for a life of clarity and purpose. He warns you not to punish, but to protect. He warns you not to instill fear, but to cultivate discernment. And he warns you not to doubt your own instincts, because your soul knows more than your mind sometimes does. The people who are meant to stay will lift you up, inspire growth, and align with your peace. Those who are meant to leave will show their true colors in subtle ways that, if noticed, can save you years of unnecessary pain. Listening, observing, and trusting in God's guidance ensures that your life is surrounded by people who add value, rather than taking it away. Ultimately, learning to see these warnings and act upon them is an act of faith. It is choosing your peace over temporary attachment, wisdom over denial, and divine guidance over human temptation. God's warnings are everywhere, in your feelings, in repeated patterns, in the counsel of others, in life's obstacles, and in the natural consequences of someone's presence. When you open your heart and mind to these signals, you no longer walk blindly. You walk confidently, protected, and aligned with the life God intended for you, surrounded by people who genuinely belong there, and moving away from those who don't. Life is full of people who come and go, but not everyone who enters your world has good intentions. Some bring growth, some bring lessons, and some bring subtle warning signs that, if ignored, can cost you peace, happiness, and even your purpose. God, in His wisdom, often warns us about these people long before their true colors fully reveal themselves. These warnings are not always loud or obvious. They are gentle nudges, inner feelings, and patterns that your spirit notices long before your mind catches up. The first sign often appears as discomfort. You might find yourself uneasy around someone, sensing tension, or feeling drained after interactions. That unease is not paranoia. It is your spirit recognizing that this person may disrupt your peace. God often plants this early warning in your heart, giving you the chance to observe, reflect, and protect yourself before any real harm occurs. Another way God warns you is through repeated patterns of behavior. Sometimes, the same traits or actions appear again and again, almost like a script you didn't agree to read. Maybe someone consistently lies, manipulates, or shows disrespect to others. At first, these actions may seem minor or excusable, but repetition is key. God uses these patterns to teach you discernment. He shows you the truth in small doses, allowing you to recognize danger before it escalates. Ignoring these repeated signs often leads to unnecessary heartache. The wise learn to see patterns as divine clues and act accordingly, rather than hoping for change that may never come. God also speaks through the counsel and observations of others. Friends, family, and even strangers can act as messengers, reflecting what you might be too close to see. If multiple people gently voice concern about someone in your life, it is not coincidence. It is God echoing the warnings through the people around you. He often uses external perspectives to validate what your spirit already senses, creating a safety net of awareness. These warnings, though subtle, are persistent. They may appear as friendly advice, pointed questions, or simple statements of concern. Pay attention. God rarely warns us in one way alone. He layers the signs, giving multiple opportunities to notice, reflect, and choose wisely. Your own intuition is perhaps the strongest form of divine warning. That inner voice, that subtle pull away from someone, is not mere coincidence or insecurity. It is your spirit recognizing danger. You may try to rationalize or hope that someone will change, but the quiet voice inside often knows the truth. God plants it there to protect you, to keep you from walking blindly into harm, disappointment, or toxic entanglements. Trusting your gut is not arrogance. It is obedience to divine guidance. When something feels off, pay attention. God's warnings often manifest as feelings, a nudge in your chest, or a sense of tension you cannot shake. These sensations are not to be ignored because they are often the first line of protection He provides. Sometimes, life itself becomes the messenger. Circumstances shift, opportunities close, and doors unexpectedly shut, all pointing to someone who is not meant to remain in your life. What may feel like inconvenience is often divine protection. God rearranges paths and circumstances to prevent toxicity from taking root. Perhaps meetings are delayed, plans fall through, or conflicts arise. These are all gentle interventions to steer you away from relationships that would harm your peace. The universe has a way of conspiring to protect those who are willing to listen. And God's warnings are embedded in these events for those attentive enough to notice. The consequences of ignoring these warnings are often clear. Emotional exhaustion, repeated heartbreak, mental stress, or a constant sense of negativity can signal that someone is not right for your life. God allows these natural consequences to teach us, to show us the cost of ignoring our intuition and the signs around us. He does not wish suffering upon you, but hopes you will learn to recognize the signals before harm escalates. Protecting your peace is not selfish. It is obedience to divine wisdom. Listening to these subtle warnings is a way of honoring the guidance God places in your life every day. Recognizing God's warnings requires awareness and courage. You must learn to distinguish between fear and divine guidance, between anxiety and intuition. Fear paralyzes, guidance empowers. Anxiety questions, intuition clarifies. God warns you not to control or punish, but to protect, to preserve, and to guide you toward relationships that are meant to uplift, inspire, and align with your purpose. Those who bring toxicity, deceit, or emotional turmoil will often display subtle signs long before their impact is fully realized. Recognizing and respecting these signs ensures that your life remains aligned with God's plan and your personal peace. Ultimately, God's warnings about people are acts of love and protection. They guide you to observe, reflect, and make choices that safeguard your heart and your future. They teach discernment, patience, and faith, reminding you that your peace is sacred. Listening to these warnings means trusting your inner compass, paying attention to patterns, valuing the counsel of others, and honoring the gentle nudges of circumstance. Those who are meant to stay in your life will enhance your journey, not drain it. Those who are meant to leave will reveal themselves through subtle signs, giving you the chance to step back before damage is done. Learning to recognize these warnings, to act upon them, and to trust in God's guidance ensures that you surround yourself with people who truly belong in your life and walk away from those who do not. Life is filled with people who enter our lives for different reasons. Some are meant to uplift us, some to teach us lessons, and some to serve as warnings. The truth is, not everyone who walks beside you has your best interests at heart, and God, in His infinite wisdom, often sends subtle signs to alert you before their true nature is fully revealed. These warnings are rarely loud or dramatic. They are quiet nudges, moments of unease, repeated patterns, and inner nudges that your spirit picks up before your mind has a chance to rationalize or ignore them. Often, the first sign comes in the form of discomfort. You may notice that being around certain people leaves you feeling drained, anxious, or unsettled. That discomfort is not imagined. It is a warning planted by God in your heart to alert you that this person may disrupt your peace and your life's path. God often reveals warning signs through repeated patterns of behavior. When someone consistently shows selfishness, dishonesty, or a lack of respect, it is not merely bad luck or coincidence. Repetition is a divine indicator, a sign that if ignored, could lead to emotional or spiritual harm. God teaches us to observe these patterns carefully, to see the truth behind words and appearances. Small moments, repeated actions, and subtle inconsistencies are all signals that this person may not have the heart or character to remain in your life. Ignoring these signs often leads to heartbreak, disappointment, or loss of trust. But those who pay attention can protect themselves and maintain their peace. Another way God warns us about people is through the perspectives of others. Friends, family, And even casual acquaintances often reflect warnings that you may be too close to recognize on your own. Multiple voices cautioning against someone or pointing out their character flaws is rarely coincidental. God uses the voices around you as instruments of guidance, echoing the concerns your spirit already senses. These external messages, when repeated and observed with an open heart, can validate the inner warnings you feel and provide clarity in moments of doubt. God's warnings often arrive in layers, through feelings, patterns, and the advice of others, so that we cannot ignore them without consequence. Your intuition is one of the most powerful ways God communicates warnings about people. That inner voice, that subtle unease, is not your imagination or insecurity. It is your spirit recognizing danger before your mind has processed it. Often, we try to rationalize or hope for the best, thinking that time or love will change someone's true nature. But your gut, your intuition, is divinely guided and rarely wrong. When someone consistently triggers tension, fear, or doubt in your heart, God is speaking directly to you. Listening to these intuitive signals is a way to honor divine guidance and protect yourself from unnecessary harm. God also communicates through life's circumstances. Events, missed opportunities, sudden changes, and even conflicts can serve as divine interventions, steering you away from harmful influences. Sometimes it feels inconvenient, frustrating, or confusing, but these obstacles often prevent deeper involvement with toxic people before significant damage occurs. God orchestrates these moments with precision, keeping you safe even when the signs are subtle or easily dismissed. What appears to be an obstacle or closed door may, in reality, be a warning to help you maintain your peace, preserve your energy, and focus on relationships that are aligned with your purpose. Consequences also serve as divine signals. When someone repeatedly creates stress, conflict, or negativity in your life, it is not just coincidence. These natural results of their presence are warning signs, reflecting that their energy and intentions may be incompatible with your own. God allows these consequences not to punish but to guide. They teach discernment, patience, and the value of observing before fully investing your time, heart, and energy. Recognizing these signs early prevents unnecessary pain and helps you make empowered decisions about who deserves to remain in your life. Awareness and courage are key to responding to these warnings. It requires the ability to distinguish between fear and divine guidance, between anxiety and intuition. Fear immobilizes, guidance empowers. Anxiety questions, intuition clarifies. God's warnings are acts of love, not judgment. They teach you to honor your peace, to trust your inner voice, and to choose relationships that are aligned with your values and your higher purpose. Those who are meant to stay will lift you, inspire growth, and nurture your heart. Those who are not meant to remain will slowly reveal themselves through subtle signs, giving you the opportunity to step away before harm takes root. Ultimately, God's warnings about people are expressions of protection and love. They remind you that your peace is sacred, your heart deserves respect, and your life's journey must be guarded. Recognizing these signs requires attentiveness, faith, and courage to act. It requires trusting your inner compass, observing repeated patterns, valuing external guidance, and understanding the subtle messages life presents. By paying attention to these warnings, you ensure that your life is filled with people who genuinely belong, while removing those who are destined to bring distraction, toxicity, or pain. God's warnings are there to help you preserve your energy, focus on your purpose, and embrace relationships that align with your destiny. When you learn to listen, trust, and act, you move through life with clarity, confidence, and divine protection, surrounded only by those who truly belong in your journey. In life, not everyone who walks into your world is meant to stay. Some people are blessings, some are lessons, and some are subtle warnings from God. These warnings are often quiet, almost imperceptible, but they are there to protect your heart, mind, and spirit from unnecessary harm. God uses signs, feelings, and patterns to alert you when someone in your life may not have your best interests at heart. Often, the first warning appears as a feeling of discomfort. You might feel uneasy, anxious, or drained in the presence of a person, even if they haven't done anything overtly wrong. This unease is not your imagination. It is God's way of nudging your spirit to pay attention, to watch, and to discern the true nature of the people around you. Another way God warns you is through repeated patterns in behavior. People who are not meant to remain in your life often show the same traits again and again: dishonesty, manipulation, selfishness, or disrespect. These patterns may be subtle at first, easy to excuse or rationalize, but repetition is a sign from God. He uses these patterns to teach you discernment, to show you the truth in small doses before it escalates into greater harm. Observing these behaviors carefully allows you to protect your peace and make informed decisions about who deserves a place in your life. Ignoring these patterns can lead to heartbreak, regret, and unnecessary pain, but paying attention gives you the advantage of wisdom and clarity. God also communicates warnings through the voices of others. Friends, family, and even acquaintances often reflect the concerns your spirit already senses. When multiple people gently caution you about someone, it is rarely a coincidence. God uses the perspectives of others to echo his warnings, to help you see what you might be too close to recognize on your own. These external messages are often subtle: a question, an observation, or repeated advice, but they serve as a confirmation of what your intuition may already be telling you. Listening to these signs and valuing the counsel of others is a way of honoring the divine guidance God provides. Your intuition is one of the strongest tools God gives you to recognize people who may bring negativity or harm into your life. That gut feeling, the subtle pull of unease or the quiet voice urging caution, is not fear or insecurity. It is a direct line from God to your heart, signaling that something is not right. Often, we want to rationalize or hope that people will change, but God equips you with an internal compass for a reason. Trusting your gut is a form of obedience to divine guidance. When you notice tension, discomfort, or repeated doubts about someone, these are warnings that should not be ignored. Life circumstances also serve as divine indicators. Doors may close, plans may fall through, or conflicts may arise in ways that seem inconvenient at first. Yet, these obstacles often prevent deeper involvement with toxic or harmful individuals. What may appear as a setback is actually protection. God arranges life's events to safeguard your peace and redirect you away from people who could harm your growth, your heart, or your destiny. By paying attention to these subtle shifts in circumstance, you can recognize divine guidance before harm takes root. The natural consequences of a person's presence also serve as warnings. Repeated stress, conflict, negativity, or emotional drain are signs that someone may not belong in your life. God allows these outcomes not as punishment, but as lessons, to help you see clearly who is aligned with your purpose and who is not. Recognizing these consequences early allows you to make choices that preserve your energy, protect your peace, and honor your heart. Those who bring toxicity often reveal themselves gradually, giving you opportunities to step back and disengage before suffering escalates. Understanding God's warnings requires discernment, awareness, and courage. It is not always easy to step away from someone you care about, even when signs point to caution. But separating fear from guidance is essential. Fear paralyzes, guidance empowers. Anxiety questions, intuition clarifies. God's warnings are always acts of love, meant to protect you rather than harm. They teach you to honor your peace, trust your instincts, and choose relationships that genuinely uplift and support you. Those who are meant to stay will enhance your journey, inspire growth, and align with your life's purpose. Those who are not will slowly reveal themselves through subtle signs, giving you the opportunity to act before deeper harm occurs. Ultimately, God's warnings about people are about protection, clarity, and love. They remind you that your peace is sacred and your heart deserves respect. By paying attention to subtle cues, repeated patterns, the counsel of others, intuition, and life's circumstances, you learn to navigate relationships with wisdom. Recognizing these warnings allows you to surround yourself with people who truly belong in your life, while stepping away from those who could harm your growth or peace. God's guidance is always present, quiet but persistent, steering you toward relationships that align with your purpose and away from those who do not. When you listen, trust, and act on these warnings, you walk through life with clarity, confidence, and divine protection, ensuring that every person in your life contributes to your journey rather than detracting from it. In life, not every person who enters your world is meant to stay. Some are sent as blessings, some as lessons, and some as subtle warnings from God. These warnings are rarely dramatic or obvious. They are quiet nudges. Moments of unease, repeated patterns, and inner nudges that your spirit senses before your mind can rationalize them. The first signs often appear as subtle discomforts. You may notice that being around certain people leaves you feeling drained, anxious, or uneasy without a clear reason. That feeling is not random. It is God's way of signaling that this person may not have your best interests at heart. Learning to recognize and trust these early warnings is essential to protecting your peace and your path. God often communicates through repeated patterns of behavior. People who are not meant to remain in your life tend to display recurring traits: dishonesty, manipulation, selfishness, disrespect, or inconsistency. At first, these actions may seem minor or excusable, but over time, the repetition becomes a clear signal. God uses these patterns as a divine warning, teaching you to observe carefully and discern the truth behind appearances. Ignoring these signs can lead to heartbreak, regret, or unnecessary struggle, while acknowledging them allows you to make choices that preserve your energy, your peace, and your emotional well-being. Patterns are not coincidences. They are God's way of showing you what may lie ahead if you ignore the signals. Another form of divine warning is the perspective of others. Friends, family, or even casual acquaintances can act as God's messengers, reflecting concerns you might be too close to see on your own. When multiple voices caution you about someone, it is rarely accidental. God uses these external perspectives to confirm what your intuition may already be sensing. These messages often appear as advice, observations, or gentle warnings, and they are meant to give you clarity and insight. Paying attention to repeated counsel from trusted sources is a way to honor God's guidance and protect yourself from unnecessary pain or disruption. Your intuition is perhaps the most powerful tool God provides to recognize people who may bring harm or negativity into your life. That gut feeling, the subtle pull away from someone, or the quiet sense of unease is not paranoia or insecurity. It is your spirit responding to divine guidance. Often, we attempt to rationalize or hope that someone will change, but your intuition is rarely wrong. Trusting it is an act of obedience to God, a way to honor the inner wisdom He places within you. When your gut tells you that something is off, pay attention. That instinctive warning is often the first line of protection God provides against people who may disrupt your peace or hinder your growth. Life circumstances themselves can serve as divine interventions. Doors may close unexpectedly, plans may fall through, or situations may shift in ways that seem inconvenient. While it may feel frustrating at the time, these obstacles often prevent deeper entanglement with toxic or harmful individuals. God arranges events to safeguard your heart, protect your purpose, and redirect your path away from people who are not aligned with your best life. What may seem like a setback is often a protective mechanism, a way for God to ensure that your peace remains intact and that you are not distracted or harmed by negative influences. Consequences also act as signs from God. Repeated stress, conflict, emotional exhaustion, or ongoing negativity when interacting with certain people are signals that they may not belong in your life. God allows these natural outcomes to teach you discernment and provide clarity. Recognizing these consequences early gives you the opportunity to step back, disengage, and prioritize relationships that are aligned with your growth, values, and peace. Those who bring toxicity into your life often reveal themselves gradually, giving you time to make conscious decisions rather than facing damage without warning. Understanding and acting on God's warnings requires awareness, courage, and discernment. It is not always easy to distance yourself from people you care about, even when the signs are clear. But learning to distinguish between fear and guidance is crucial. Fear paralyzes, while divine guidance empowers. Anxiety questions, while intuition clarifies. God's warnings are always acts of love, not punishment, meant to protect rather than harm. They teach you to honor your heart, preserve your peace, and choose relationships that genuinely uplift and support you. Those who are meant to stay will encourage growth, inspire positivity, and align with your purpose. Those who are not meant to remain will subtly reveal their true nature, giving you the opportunity to step away before harm occurs. Ultimately, God's warnings about people are about protection, clarity, and love. They remind you that your peace is sacred, your heart deserves respect, and your life's journey must be guarded. By paying attention to subtle signs, repeated behaviors, the counsel of others, your intuition, and life's circumstances, you can navigate relationships with wisdom and confidence. Recognizing these warnings ensures that you surround yourself with people who genuinely belong in your life, while stepping away from those who could distract, harm, or hinder your growth. God's guidance is persistent, quiet, and intentional, always steering you toward people and situations that align with your purpose. When you listen, trust, and act upon these warnings, you move through life with clarity, confidence, and divine protection, allowing only those who truly belong in your journey to remain by your side.